Clive says with all the variations in cash flow from so many small businesses, what will the CBA put in place to assist business who are struggling with being able to prove solvency for financial support?
You should talk about that because we've had a real focus on, particularly during COVID, how to think about that and coming out.
I think, so as Matt said, we've been amazed at how resilient business actually has been. But the one thing that we have done, Tiki, is we've been very conscious of this COVID period. So when we assess serviceability and the level of lending to a business, we pretty much go pre-COVID. We have a look at performance pre-COVID. We carve out the COVID months, and we assess the business on its performance pre this particular the setbacks that have happened. So that's been a approach that we've consistently applied across the business. We also are very much moving our stated ambition is to move away from just looking at fixed collateral type of lending and be looking at other types of collateral now.
Well, this is a big story, isn't it? Because in the past, businesses had to have a house or an asset that they could throw up. And in part, people I've spoken to have said, well, it's because the bankers just haven't taken the time to get to understand our businesses.
It's a big change in direction for us, one that I'm particularly excited about. It is a different way of dealing with customers. You really have to have a deep understanding of your customer's business, which is actually what banking is about. So it's a really exciting development here in CBA, and one that the relationship managers are relishing the new conversations that they're having with customers.
Clive says here, how can we best prepare for an increase in borrowing costs?
Well, I think the most important thing is, to be thinking about it and factoring it in. And as I said, I know Mike and the team are very focused on. It's the sort of thing to be having a conversation with your banker about, what's the outlook, what are my capital and lending needs, what's my plan for the business. And I think, one of the things we're very focused on, and I think goes to the point you were making about competition. One of the good things is, there's a lot of, I think, innovation in the service model, and clearly we're wanting to expand the way we serve customers and not just relying on sort of secured lending. And so there's a range of different products and capabilities. And, the job of a bank, as Mike said, is for bankers to understand the business and add value. Yes. And part of that is planning for things like changes to interest rates, to exchange rates, and making sure that businesses are well prepared for that. I've no doubt after the last 18 months, many businesses are sort of thinking through their contingency plans, all of us having had to deal with things that we would never have anticipated. So, it shows the resilience of many of those businesses.
Yatinda here says merchant fees are becoming a big cost for businesses as cash sales are dropping each day. There should be a cap that a small business will pay as a maximum. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so a lot of work on in this topic, both innovation to our overall, products and services, and Mike can talk in more detail about, new merchant terminals that we're rolling out, but also we're changing our pricing. We've tried to simplify and streamline our pricing for merchants. Where we waived tens of millions of fees during COVID, and we also had the opportunity to look very closely at the way we price in lots of different bundles and packages. And so we're going to a much simplified, and at least the last time I checked, the cheapest in market. At 1.1%. And so I think if we haven't looked at the pricing and products, it would definitely be worthwhile having a conversation with your banker at CBA. It's an area we're hugely focused on making sure we've got a great integrated electronic payment proposition. We recognise that it's, cash comes with a lot of other costs, which are often hidden in terms of, handling and transport, etc. Electronic, you can see that. Actually, I do think overall the costs in Australia are very low relative to many other markets.
Is the bank working on trying to reduce credit card fees?
Well, and credit card fees come in multiple forms. So from a consumer, obviously, there can be fees or interest rates. But from a business, typically it's what the costs associated with acceptance of the credit card, which for credit's generally set at about 50 basis points. It's a lot of lots of different price points. But yes, overall interchange, this is something the Reserve Bank looks at very closely, and the cost to businesses continuing to come down. And it's a competitive market which inevitably puts downward pressure on prices.